So we're going to get the panel started. Thank you, everybody, for showing up for the Optillusion panel. Just a little bit of an introduction. My name is Sebastian Galeen. I'm an officer here at Triton Gaming. I'm a fourth-year psychology major at UCSD.
And I'm Sophia Violet, also a TG officer, and this is my first year at UCSD, and I'm an aerospace engineering major.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Yijia from Optillusion Games. I'm the co-founder and the lead artist over Optillusion.
Awesome. So we're going to start with a few questions that we have planned. Question number one, what is Optillusion and what do you do there?
Okay, so we are Optillusion. We are the creator of Montage, and we are also the creator of many fun games. And our latest project is called While Waiting. So basically, we create beautiful games for all players.
Okay. Why did you choose to work over at Optillusion? I know you mentioned that you're the founder.
Yeah, so basically, so our first game, our debut game was Montage, which is a optical illusion puzzle game, and it started as a thesis project during the time we were at school. So there's another co-founder. So we worked together on this project. So after graduation, so the game got exposed, and it received many good recommendations and reviews. So it would be a shame that we ditch our thesis project. So after graduation, we founded Optillusion and continue working on this for 3 years. And the game was finally out in 2021.
And what specifically do you do at Optillusion? Like, what is your role on the team?
I'm the lead artist over there. So during the time Montage, we only got 2 people. So basically, it's me and my co-founder partner. So we worked together, and we were the designers. We both designed Montage, and I was responsible for creating 3D assets, 2D assets, and other materials like visual art, the visual art, and the what's it called? The marketing materials, yeah.
So one thing that I noticed was during, when I was looking at While Waiting, your newest game, I really liked the art style. And I think just it very much works for the type of game it is. How did you develop that art style?
So basically, we ran a couple of art tests. So we settled on because While Waiting is a very experimental game, but we also wanted to make it more acceptable, acceptable to the general audience, and we wanted to expand our player base because Montage was a minimalistic and artistic game. That art style attracted quite a few players, but we wish to expand it to a wider audience. So we chose a more comic and more playful style for the game, and I think it will be more appreciated by all ages, from kiddo to adults. They can all enjoy that kind of art style.
And I know earlier we were talking and you mentioned that this is actually the first time that the public has been able to play this game since it's not released yet, and it's still in progress. So would you be able to tell us a little more about the game?
Okay, so While Waiting is actually a experimental game that the main gameplay is to wait. So in each level, it depicts a different scene that you are wait for something. So while you're waiting, you can use the keyboard and to explore or poke around, or you can just sit there and wait until end. So the fun one of the fun aspect is that you can actually beat the game by doing nothing. So, but it doesn't. Hopefully, that doesn't stop you from poking around and having fun while you're waiting. So, yeah. So this game is still under development. There will be a total of 100 levels, but in the demo we showcased it today only contains 10. Yeah, and we already have a Steam page set up. So if you can wish list it, we appreciate it. Yeah, hopefully it will be released later this year.
All right. So, indie game company. What's the best part? Like, what's the most rewarding part of being at an indie game company?
In indie game company, you got, all right, you can make a decision. Like you can contribute to the project. So we have, right now we used to base in New York City, but we moved to Irvine last year. So right now on the site we have 4 team members. So we work really closely. So basically every day it's a heated discussion. No, not a heated. It's a friendly discussion about the directions we are going to make. So yeah. So the good thing is that you get your chance work as a game designer in the team to say of your opinion, to talk about your opinion and to talk about your ideas on the game. I know from if it's a bigger scale of company, probably you won't be able to get this much chance to say something about the project.
And so, how many people are on the team in total, and how do you keep it from being like a too many cooks in the kitchen type situation?
So on in our studio on the site, urban site, we have four team members, and we got 2 remote members. So we have a project manager, which is also our who is also our lead engineer. So that's one of the thing to work in this studio, that you have to be like multitasking. So I'm the lead artist. Officially, I'm the lead artist, but I also do some design stuff, and and sometimes I have to like manage all the assets as well. So that's the thing is that we need someone to be the manager of everything. The manager of everything is called let's say it's producer type. So the producer's responsibility is to keep the project on track and make sure it reaches to a certain point by a certain date. Otherwise, it's just like endless procrastination, which is not very good.
I think that as college students, we can all understand and relate.
Yeah, actually, that's one of the common issue happens to student project, which is scope. I've seen many student project, and Montage is also started as a student project. So one of the major difference between a shipped game and a student project is that the student project probably will have a appropriate scope. Like it's either too large or too small. So if you wish to actually successfully complete a project, you'll need to know what it's gonna take.
So we had you over in the indie game showcase room, where we had a whole bunch of other like student devs here from UCSD. Something that I noticed about them is that like they put in a lot of work, and I know that you mentioned that Montage started as a student project, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did you get it off the floor? You know, how did you go from being a student project to being a game like published for everyone to play?
So the original scope for this project was far larger. I mean, not far larger, but by the time we graduated, we only made like 1/3 of the game. So pretty much 1/3 is maybe still too much weight. 1/5 of the game, of the whole game. So since it got so it tracked. So back in 2019, we showcased this on Intel Student Game Show, and it got a lot of attractions from publishers and other media. So we actually teamed up with publishers. So they offered us a minimum fund, like it's just a couple of dollars to support us to finish it. So after it get released, it's a different story.
When you were a student, did you know you wanted to be a game developer, or was that something you discovered after you started dabbling in it?
Oh yeah, I've been a game designer since undergrad day one. So I graduated. I graduated from RPI game. What's that? Oh, GSAS major, which is game, simulated art, and science. Yeah, that's the whole thing. All right, that's the whole thing. So basically, it's still a game design major, and I went to NYU Game Center for Graduate School, which is game design again. Like basically, I did the whole thing again. Not really. But graduate school is different from undergrad. So. Well, they may share the similarities, but they are not typically the same thing.
So, as you mentioned that you've been working on game design since undergrad day one, you've probably had some projects that you've turned in as like a final for some classes. Would you ever want to like go back and revisit those, like maybe flesh them out or bring them as an idea to your team?
You know, there's a saying like it's more like a joke from game design, like this industry, that your first 10 games suck. So, unfortunately, the projects you were mentioning fall under that area. But but there are still some ideas in my head, which is I really like, but hopefully I will get a chance to actually do it. But who knows? But right now we work as a team though, so we got a pretty tight schedule working on this project, and we are starting the next project probably later this year. So personal projects gotta wait for a bit.
Could you walk us through what the schedule is like in the game development process?
In the game development, okay, so because we're indie game developers, so we don't have that rigid deadlines. So pretty much, the general process of making a game is to starting from ideas and a prototype. So in this stage, you will be making some prototypes, and maybe it could be a paper prototype or a digital prototype, or simply documents. So just explore the idea of is it playable or not, and if it's tested, is everybody approved? So we can jump into the next stage, which is a demo stage. I will call it a demo stage, which is you will be making a playable build for if you are looking for fundings or publishers, or like it's a time to show them. It's the time to show them, and they will look at your build and decide if they're gonna support you or not. And then we'll be into the production and the polish stage. So at this point, you probably already, if you successfully got the support from publishers or the founders, you will just keep doing it and the production, and there will be some iterations and changes going on, but this is a production stage, and then it's you reach the final stage, which is pre-release. So at this point, you will be starting making, like getting exposure or reaching out to media and let them to know you, or post on social media to let the potential players know you are releasing a new game. And after that, it got released, and so on.
So, with, as you mentioned, Ankaj was a puzzle game. What inspired you to go with the puzzle genre? Like, was it for a project, or did you just decide I want to go with like a very simple but complex look?
So Montage started as so we got the inspiration from a video, which is I got a video from I got an idea from a video showing that it's called it's a technical it's a technical demonstration of stencil buffer, which allows you to show different images on different panel. So we thought that was really cool, and we decided to make a game out of it. So we found that it was quite intriguing that if we can connect one thing to another and something else happen, it's gonna be super dope. So that's how we decided to take on the puzzle game path.
With While Waiting, you said that you only had 10 levels so far, right? Like in the demo. What can we expect from the other?
Okay, so it's gonna be the life journey of the little boy Adam. We call it Adam, but he doesn't really have a name, to be honest, because we try to avoid text in our game because language is more like a barrier. We want to convey the gameplay and the ideal without any words. So it's gonna be the life journey from when he's a child to when he gets old. So the full game, 100 level, will be a life journey of Adam. So he'll be experiencing day-to-day waiting situations. He'll be waiting on many things.
I know that the gameplay of While Waiting is much more experimental, like you mentioned before. What gives you the confidence to be able to release a game with mechanics that are so different and unique?
So basically, that's actually the core of our studio. We can't really say that Montage is a commercialized game. It's still very experimental. So we want to have a different approach to in this project, but still at the same time we keep the core, our studio, the spirit of our studio that's intact.
So one thing that I noticed was, again, I mentioned the art style earlier, but what's your main inspiration? What kind of led you to that style specifically? Any games that you've played or media that you've consumed while growing up?
For which game? For
While Waiting.
For While Waiting, okay. Inspiration. So the comical style. Can't really say that we have a one single source of inspiration, but we are so we like artists. We really like illustrations and art and paintings. So we got inspirations from comic books and illustrations and manga as well.
So would you say that it was a lot of stuff from like your childhood, like a lot of stuff?
It's well, so yeah. So one of the reference game for while waiting is Kukiomi. I guess that's what it's called, which is a Japanese game with simple line drawing and a funny style. But that game is more like a reaction based. So you have to do the right thing with a short time frame. But this while waiting is a more laid back experience. Yeah.
Is there a certain message or like emotion that you want to evoke from players when they're playing while waiting, or like?
Well, so actually, there's one emotion that everybody experiences but overlook, which is it is boredom. So everybody will feel bored once in a while, and we spend, if you think about it, we spend a lot of time waiting on something every day. So we wish to explore that aspect of of our daily life and then make it funny or worse it.
Um, so, as being like the co-founder of Optillusion, you've probably had like a lot of like incidents or like anything bad. But what about the good? What's the most memorable thing that's happened, like working with the team?
Working with the team. Working with the team. So yeah, we so while waiting, so working as a team, while waiting is like a continuous changing thing. So we actually rewrote many of the gameplay during the process of development. So the most funny thing, like the most memorable moment, is that we just the moment that we all settle on some stupid idea. Like we just vouch for it. Everybody in our team just vouch for that stupid idea. So like, yeah, we are, we are stupid. We'll just be like, yes, we're gonna do it. We know it's stupid, but we're gonna do it.
Well, see, it's that confidence that makes projects like go forward. I know we've kind of had that. Everybody's run into that, especially being a student, where you submit something, you're like, this is like really bad. This is not my best work, and then it ends up being like really good, and the professor's like, wow, that's really good. I personally had that happen to me this quarter, but I'm glad that you guys like moved forward with that. The game's very beautiful. We had a lot of people come by to our showcase room earlier, and a lot of people were stopping by and playing the game. At this time, we are going to open up the questions to the floor. So if anybody has any questions. If not, we still have some more questions. So if anybody wants to kind of dwell on it a little bit. But,
Moncage, yes.
It started off as a student project, have some student devs here. What is something that, like, what was a big problem in the step? Like when you're before you turned it in as a like student project, what was a hurdle that you kind of found yourself stuck at?
Design. All right, the level design of Moncage was nightmare. To be honest, was nightmare. So basically, it's a game built upon coincidence, I would say. It's nothing like other puzzle game. So it was hard to find reference, but actually, Agora is happened to be like the closest one to be referenced, the main. So the only thing we can do during a designing process was to open up the project and stare at it, and constantly hopelessly rotate the cube. Hopefully, we will find something like new. But somehow, but we so for the most time we wouldn't find new approach to that. So we could so we basically we set on the project for a few days, sometimes just even months, no progress, which was very stressful because it really. So we just constantly yeah. So I don't want to go very detailed into that design process because there wasn't much to say. We just like watch. We were just staring at the cube, and hopefully we'll get some inspirations. So that's why we couldn't finish our like planned scope during the time we were at school because the designing process was much harder than we expected.
In terms of like artist block, do you ever encounter that, and how do you get over it if you do?
It's not actually artist block. We got ideas, so we have ideas. Then we to take a look at our project. Because it's a 3D game, and it plays around perspective. So that means we got the ideas. It probably they won't fit. Probably they wouldn't fit into that narrow space, the tiny little box. Probably they wouldn't fit. So that's why even though we got got the ideas and the objects related to that idea, we still couldn't make it because it's a play of perspective. So we had to scratch that and start it over.
It sounds like it's interesting, the mirroring, that in order to play the game, you need to look at the game from different perspectives, but also while making the game, you had to look at it from different perspectives.
So we need to constantly check the angles, check the lining up thing. So make sure there's nothing like inconsistent. Because it's a linear puzzle game. We can't really let the player something slip through. So we have to make sure it's a one piece, one single long piece, no seams in between, no gaps in between.
So, as a former student dev now, professional indie dev, how was balancing like working on projects with like other school life and social life? You know, as being a student.
So working for being a student.
Yeah, while you were a student, you know.
Well, we're students. So, so during the time I was a student, it was actually I took it very like I would say professionally. The schoolwork is schoolwork, but my life is my life. So that's another. So once again, it's about the scope of yourself. What you can do, or what you won't able to, or about the deadline. So just don't procrastinate. Plan yourself, and you'll be good. Like you just treat it as any other schoolwork. So this is more like a professional way to do it.
Since you were going into the field, did you know you wanted to like make your own games, or were you also considering joining a AAA company?
Actually, so I just wanted to make my own game. So so I thought about applying for larger company jobs, but I still want to make my own games.
Well, I think that was the move, honestly, because that gave you a lot more like creative freedom, as you mentioned earlier. Having such a small team gives you the ability to have your voice heard a lot more than if you were working on a company of, you know, a lot of people. A question that I had, and it kind of goes back to the previous question, but how do you currently balance, you know, your work life and your social life? Is it just
All right, so that's well, that actually partially relies on our producer. So the producer so it's their job to keep the project on track. So we will let him know that let them know we what we can make, or that deadline just not doable, or something like that. So management is the key. But for our studio, we actually don't encourage overtime. We encourage our members just have fun, because we're making games, we're making fun games. So just work and have fun.
Do you find that making games takes the joy away from playing other games, or does it enhance it?
It's actually no. Actually no. So sometimes people will think, like, if you're a game designer, you lose the ability of enjoying games. Actually, no, because being a game designer is actually it's opening up a new way to look at the games. So so I'm an indie game developer, but I do enjoy larger scale AAA titles like God of War. So from a designer angle, I'll see many different things, like different small details that I wouldn't be able to notice if I'm not a game designer. So it's like a mutual. So when so it's like a mutual agreement among the game designers that you will do the things a certain way, or it's like announce the rules for us. So it's like more like an inner circle for us. Yeah, but if you can also learn from other games, so especially those successful titles. Even if it's AAA or something like much larger than our project, but you can still learn from it because they got more resources. They got a stable, target audience. They got more like a stable, successful marketing strategy. So there's so many things you can learn from them. So either they design, well, it's probably tested, and if they continue doing this, it's probably because it's tested and it's working.
Okay. So I guess we do have some student devs in the audience right now. So a question I have is to kind of, how do you go from being a student into being a developer? Like, how was the step for you? That was the process of creating Optillusion.
From student to so from actually, well, it kind of like it happened naturally that if it's gonna so once it's gonna be if it's gonna be it's gonna be it's not a no. Well, once you know it's no longer a student project, you will like treat it differently. Like if you know your player is gonna pay the money, like they gotta pay their time and their money to play your game, you have to be more cautious and responsible of this. So our is like so for our case, it's more like we just have to try our best, like to make it happen. Otherwise, Otherwise, it's just bad for our players and our publisher. So just think about treating your student project as a product, or not product, but as something that people love, that people will love or pay money and the time for you. So you are the content creator now.
So obviously, like the scope of your projects have increased since you were a student to now with having like 14 or so people on the team. How big do you see that scope increasing in the future? Like, will you cap it at a certain point or infinite growth?
Okay, so it didn't increase. So we just we just didn't make it during the time we were at school. We simply just finished the thing. So for future, I would say it depends on the size of our team. Right now, we are still rising. We are still hiring, looking for artists, looking for lead artist and another lead artist to start a new project. So yeah, it really depends on the funding we have, the funds we have for now, and the team size. So again, that partially relies on our producer. Applaud for our producer, make things happen.
Yeah, definitely a round of applause for your producer. So being an indie dev creator, I know that it kind of comes down to the nitty gritty. I know AAA companies have the money to back up their projects, but how has being small time and having a limited amount of resources affected gameplay, whether positive or negative, or game production?
So as we said, we learn from other projects. So we can't really afford making a big mistake. But but for indie game, we also have the freedom. We make the game that both the player and our like. So I think the best approach to indie game is to just make the game you feel happy about. I think that's the way. So in that way, you at least you're happy with yourself. So if it's a successful commercial wise successful or not, you still feel happy about it.
Yeah, so it sounds like a lot like making projects and making stuff that you like.
But so the one key, one important thing is to actually take a look at other games. So see what they are doing and how they are doing. So probably that's gonna save you money and time and effort. Yeah, learn from others.
Okay, so kind of taking a step back and looking at
Yes.
all the games within your sphere and seeing what makes them successful, what makes them not as successful,
Yeah.
and learning from that. Okay, that sounds like, I feel like that's a good lesson to put to any kind of work that you do. Like if you're doing, if you're doing a research paper, looking at, peer-reviewed studies and seeing.
Yes, please. Sometimes do step away and take a look at the world around you and look for potential new opportunities, especially for content creators. You gotta find a source of inspirations as well.
Where do you draw the line between inspiration and just taking ideas?
Taking ideas. So, actually, that line is kind of blurry. So there's no patent. Actually, there's no actual patent or protection against the gameplay. So in this industry, you can literally take the gameplay and make it yours. So I would say if it's a very stable and tested gameplay, definitely you can just get another version of it. For instance, if you are making a slime Tetris, which is Tetris in slimy form, of course you can make that, and there's no problem. Everybody knows Tetris, but if you just but if you're gonna take the assets from the other or copy the assets like a duplicate, driving, but duplicate the assets from the other games, that's a big no-no. So.
Okay. So I do have a question for you. You mentioned that while currently working on While Waiting, you possibly had that you're looking for artists for another project, right? Another
Yes,
project after
yes.
that. Could you give us a little sneak peek, or like at least a rough idea of what to expect?
So I'm pretty sure everybody's heard about artificial intelligence these days. So it's more like, so we are trying to do a experimental game of using AI. So that's a new stuff. But if it's gonna successful or not, we don't know. We don't know it yet. But that's a trend. That's the trend of artificial intelligence. But artificial intelligence itself is not a game. So ChatGPT is not a game. So somehow it's a little bit challenging to make a game out of it. And probably we won't make a game out of it, which is actually we did a little bit of experiment of making a chatbot game, more like a dating sim or let's say visual novel. It was not very fun, to be honest, because you just talk to chat, like you will immediately get a sense of feeling that you are talking to a bot. So yeah, so maybe it's about AI, but it's not an AI game.
AI
For
is an
sure.
interesting topic to choose, especially in terms of art, since there's a lot of like heated opinions about art related to AI. Do you have any opinions on that?
Okay, AI art. I think AI is a very powerful supporting tool. Like I'm open to it, but I don't oppose to it. But you gotta be careful. So what makes our AI art what makes AI art different from traditional human art is that AI art doesn't have the sense of well, what should I call it? Doesn't have the AIR doesn't have layers in there. So there's layers of information even for a piece of art. Layers of information. So for human art, you will see the intentions, like the purpose of the art. But for ARR, mostly it's just like blah. It's just a thing. It's a art of something. It's not a representation of the artist. It's not an artist statement of the artist. So it doesn't really speak anything. But if a artist used AI to successfully express themselves, then that's a well, in my opinion, that's the right way to use AI.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely AI is very much in the scope of like the sphere in a way where a lot of people is definitely like people love it, people hate it. Definitely here at UCSD, it's kind of looked kind of down upon just because a lot of people have been using it in academic sense. But kind of shifting a little bit away from that. What's your favorite part about While Waiting? Because I know we've talked about kind of the style, but like, why do you wake up and be like, I like the game that I'm making?
Like, it's definitely stupid. I like the absurdity and the stupidness of the game. So you can do many things that you wanted to, but you will never do in the real life. But in this game, you can actually do that with no cost. And being a jerk.
Are there any games that you've played that are kind of a similar theme, or is it just totally like your own brainchild?
You mean While Waiting?
Yeah.
Okay. As I mentioned, it's a Japanese game called Kukiyomi, which is a game that very tied to Japanese culture, culture that they because the Japanese are very, let's say, polite, and they care very much about how others thinking. So in that game, you have to act appropriate for for yourself and for the ones surrounding you. Our game is different. It's more like being yourself. being being the jerk you always wanted to be.
Yeah, I was going through the gameplay earlier. I was watching some participants play it. I even sat down and played a little bit myself. And I think one of the levels that really stuck out with me was the truck driving one. I think that one was just really funny, how you're constantly like swerving. You have to keep on correcting yourself.
Yeah, actually, that's a parody to Desert Bus. If you know about it, it's a really old game, which is also it's a parody game itself. So basically, you drive through a desert 8 hours nonstop. All the gameplay is one single button. Yeah, it's actually a classic. It's actually a classic. If you believe or not, it's a very well-known title in gaming history.
Have you ever sat down and played all 8 hours of it?
Yes, actually, there is a walkthrough on YouTube. Someone just recorded 8 hours of driving through a desert, a pixelized desert.
How long have you been working on While Waiting for, and when do you expect it'll be ready for release?
We've been working on this for, let's say, from scratch to current state. It's almost about a year, but we started from a smaller team, but it's almost a year. So hopefully we will get it released by end of this year.
What do we like? What can the I think we mentioned it earlier, but what kind of levels are you like? What's the level? What's your favorite level in the game?
Favorite level, in the demo, it's definitely the airport one, which you can sit on the the luggage belt, and rotate around the whole airport, and also you can slap the plants. It's the best thing that you can slap the plants.
It sounds like you get a lot of inspiration for the different levels, like in your day-to-day life, like, oh, I'm bored right now. Maybe I can make this into a level. Is that kind of how your life has been impacted by making this game?
Yes, that's true. So we got a lot of situations waiting on, so basically we brainstormed the waiting situations. So it was about 200 situations, and we picked and we ditched some ditched some of them because they're way too similar to one to another. So now we have 100, just 100 of different situations.
So, which one do you think had like the hardest? You had the hardest time conveying from idea into a level. I know some of the levels, like you mentioned, like the desert bus level, is a reference or a parody.
Yeah. So waiting is not exactly a fun thing to do. So the most difficult one in the demo, I think, was it's really hard to pick, but I think they're okay. So there will be levels that you can just wait. So there's no fun thing to do, but we try to make the game as fun as possible. But there are some inevitable situations that you can do nothing about it. For instance, there will be some level that you wait for the little child to grow up. In that level, pretty much because he's growing up, he's busy with his life, you can do nothing about it. So there are some inevitable levels, but many levels we marked as fun. So just those are the levels that really make the game worth it.
So with that, I'm sorry, I had it written down, but where can like we find this game? Is it like what platforms?
Okay, so we have a Steam page set up. So it's called While Waiting. So it's live on Steam. I mean, the page is live on Steam, but We can actually we are planning to put on PC, on Mac, and on mobile. Definitely on mobile because it's a game so it's a game that you want to open it up and play for a while, then just leave it.
That's almost meta. If you have it on your phone, then maybe you're waiting for the bus or something, and you pull up while waiting.
Yeah, so you gotta wait along with the little child.
Is there any way to like win the game, or is it just like a infinite boredom crusher?
Well, how that actually depends on how you're define win. Actually, you can beat the game by doing nothing. You just open up the game and wait with him to through the whole thing. Well, yeah, there's no actual win in the game because you wait for something, you just wait it.
I like that idea that there's no real winning definition of winning. It's just a constant state of waiting. So waiting rather than winning. Okay. So we're gonna open up the floor. If anybody has any questions that they would like to ask.
Yeah.
We'll get a mic over to you.
Yeah, speak to the mic.
Were there any particular challenges with taking or founding Optillusion, and what role did Montage play in that process?
You mean the funds? Oh, what do you mean? Oh, challenge fund? What?
Yeah, generally anything or like tough decisions, and funds. Yeah.
Okay, so the lucky thing is that we started as a really small team, like 2 people, and we were classmates, so we know each other very well. So that actually, we were friends. So we are friends now. We were friends, and we still are. That the company doesn't affect our friendship. So, yeah. So we are colleagues. So, like, you will. So for me, it's a lucky thing that we are friends and we agree. We have mutual agreement on many things. So we share the same taste in gaming. So that's a lucky thing that you actually like your colleague, like your coworker. Otherwise, it won't work. So, yeah. Yeah, respect your teammate and be a good human. Don't be a jerk in real life. Please, it's going to ruin you.
Only in game.
Yeah.
Only while waiting.
Yeah, but so one thing about working in team is to communicate. So since we were smaller, so it's gonna be it's easier for us. It was easier for us to make like reach to a agreement. But yeah, I believe for larger team, the communication is even more important. So.
How do you overcome the challenges that you face as a team?
As a team, so basically, if we run into some issue, we just brought that up. We just bring that up to everybody on board, and we just discuss it. And probably we will reach because we. So the thing is that we must have a common goal, like. We work as a team. That's like the bottom line of it. So that's the bottom line that we want to make. For instance, we want to make the game we like, and that's the bottom line of our studio. So based on that, we can have a different opinions, and sometimes we will need to get a Zoom meeting, get a meeting to discuss. So yeah, and we will. And another thing is to let your team breathe a little bit, like give them space, like give them a certain freedom, so let them feel like they are important. So you are not the boss of them. So yeah, that's also a thing of teamwork. Like it's a dynamic thing. you got to be more friendly, I would say.
So you should think of it more rather than like a boss and employee situation.
Yeah, the boss and the employee situations are it's still there, but in most case, I mean in many cases, it's a boss and the employee things. I mean, in actual production, like that's the thing. So, but in general, like idea discussion or something, like you have to listen to others.
Okay, so we are unfortunately running short on time, so we are gonna open up the panel for one last question if anybody has any. Right there.
Hello. So it seems that Montage and Wade are quite slow-paced games, which works very well. But have you and the team considered any fast-paced games in the future?
Oh, fast-paced game. So it's more like a direction of our studio. So if you, so it does. So for studio to make games, it does require experience and so it's a more like because we are. Because we have more experience working on slow and artistic games, so probably there won't be fast-paced game because that's it's a more like a direction thing, but we don't oppose that idea. So if we found a really interesting approach to that genre, we will make it. So let's say we are not close to any of the idea, but it's our studio is set on the path. It's not set, but it's right now it's walking on the path of artistic and unique experimental experience games.
All right. Well, we are unfortunately out of time. We appreciate everybody coming out tonight, especially since it is, I know a lot of people might have been here all day and probably really tired, but we do very much appreciate coming out to the Optillusion panel. Do you have any last words that you'd like to leave us with?
So I know I said a lot of things that, well, probably is not appropriate, but just kidding. So, so to whoever, like everybody loves game. So to whoever wants to make game, just go for it. It's a path worth going down, and you will have a lot of fun making games.
Awesome. And where can they find you? Where can they find Optillusion?
So you can search for our Twitter. It's at Play Optillusion, or just our official website, optillusion.games.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming out. It means a lot to us. I know it means a lot to the gaming community to have a facet of information for how to get into the indie game development scene.
Thank you very much. So thank you everybody, and it's been a good time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.